can I change this the fastest?
Go to the participants, the button that says participants, and rename it.
Okay.
Participants.
Yeah, I think if you click on it next to your name, just click on your name. It should bring up mute or more. If you click on more, you can change the title of your.
Yeah, you can do rename. Here, I'll do it for myself too. Oh, hey, Maddie, TDeFi. All right, looks like we are live on YouTube now as well. Let me just get this out to the community.
Yeah, so Denko, could you put your name, the project name against your name as well? Perfect. Great, great. I think we're good to go.
While others can please switch on their cameras. If somebody's facing permission issues, you can please type it on the chat, or I'm anyways asking everybody to unmute and show video. Yeah. Sorry if that bothers you at all. It's just that the only option I've got as a host.
Okay, we should be live.
Yeah, I think we're ready for the
we are
the group session.
Yeah, let's maybe go down the line and have just a quick introduction from everyone. Obviously, everyone was just watching Denko from Reef, but we'll give an opportunity for the others. So I'll go one by one. Let's start with you, Tobias.
Yeah, hello. Hi. I'm Tobias. I'm from the Autonia Foundation. I'm mainly doing communications and stuff there. And I've been there from like the get-go. I started there as a community admin, and yeah, now 3 days later, I'm part of the team.
Awesome. And Ali?
And I'm the founder of Autonia Foundation. I gave the pitch a while ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great pitch was, by the way.
Thank you.
And then, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Anakal?
Anchal.
I guess it's Anchal.
Yeah, Anchal.
Yeah, hi.
Okay. Yeah, I'm awful with names, so.
That's fine. So I'm Chief Strategy Officer for Sperium Finance. I joined the team about 2 months back. So yeah, the CEO that did make the presentation, he's busy with some other calls right now.
No worries.
Yeah.
We appreciate you having you here.
Yeah, because it's pretty late in India right now.
Yeah.
Ali, where are you from?
I'm from India. Right now, I'm in Bahrain, though. So it's like...
Okay, so you're on the same time zone like us.
Yes, the 1 hour difference still. Bahrain follows Saudi Arabia's time. So still an hour of difference.
Great stuff. So I think the plan, guys, is we had quite a lot of interest from the pitch sessions. Apologies that we had such a tight schedule. I think future reference for ourselves, I think we want to make sure we give you guys more time. Luckily, the way we structured it, we have this kind of breakout session, and we wanted to bring you guys back to ask you questions that really were focused more from the public. We had a huge amount of interest. So I'm going to just throw straight back in there and start asking you some questions. And, you know, please, everybody else that's on the panel, feel free to get involved. We're interested in everybody's kind of social interaction here. But in terms of questions for Autonia Foundation, the first question up was, who do you feel your main competitors would be in your mindset right now? And have you thought about that much?
The way we see it, it's more of a collaborative project. Although we have a DEX, so any of the other decentralized exchanges can be considered competitors, but the overall suite of tools that we're offering, so we can work with these decentralized exchanges as well. So in terms of the products that we have, the market making tool or the algorithmic trading terminal, there's several other projects that are doing this in the space, notably 3Commas and a few others. When it comes to the DEX, there's plenty other decentralized exchanges that you're aware of that could be considered as competitors. As far as AI is concerned, I don't think there's a lot of projects that are trying to implement it the way that we are. So I would say any of the trading bots that are out there or DEXs can be considered competitors. But again, we have more of a collaborative approach, considering the variety of tools that we have, and we always have ways to integrate these different projects in the space. Gotcha. And Uniswap, I guess, could be considered a competitor as well, since we're launching this IMM thing.
Gotcha. I mean, you've got a huge amount of I guess protocols or different types of solutions that you provide us in your pitch. How would you best describe yourself? Because obviously there's a number of different I guess technical values that you're offering. You know, if you were to describe yourself in a short sentence, how would you do that?
In terms of what we're doing, if I were to describe what we're doing, we're building a prosperous community around automated trading. So that's just a way of describing what we're about. And yeah, I think that's how I describe that. In terms of how we're doing it, we're building financial tools and infrastructure. So the tools are automated trading tools, AI agents. In terms of infrastructure, it's the DEX and the decentralized AI network that we're building.
Okay, but mainly your main focus is as a trading product rather than say a DEX tool or something like that.
That's right. Software development, decentralized application development for the most part.
Gotcha. So I'll just keep moving through. I mean, we have a lot of questions. So again, unless anybody wants to jump in, feel free. But
I have a question, Dave. I have a question here. So Ali, I mean, based on the pitch that you shared, it seems like you already have an existing product that offers a trading tool suite, right? And yes, you are planning to have an IMM, which is Intelligent Market Maker platform, right? So that's right. These two platforms will have different tokens, or you are planning to use the existing token for the upcoming platform, which is the like a DeFi protocol, more of an automated AI-based order book management, right?
Right. So we have a single token right now, and our current strategy is to stick to that. So the NeoX token becomes sort of the lifeblood of this entire ecosystem that we're building. So that becomes part of the IMM that we have, the DEX that we have. So it closely aligns with the existing token that we have, and that's what our current strategy is.
Okay. So for the next upcoming DeFi token, would it be having a governance structure?
Yeah, so we already are transitioning into a decentralized organization. Right now, we have about 35 DAO members, and we're running this campaign where we're inviting new members to join in. There's going to be an announcement soon about why anybody would want to join the decentralized organization that we've built. So we have as I mentioned during the presentation, there's a few use cases for the token. One of them is hold to use different features of the platform. One is to stake the token and participate in governance. So that's how it's structured right now, and the DAO would have total control over the products and the tools that we're building, the protocols that we're designing. So there might be scope for us to have a secondary token, although that's not our current strategy, and we don't seem to have a need to have a separate token. Although we're introducing IMMs, which would have their own liquidity mining protocols, but the way that it is designed, there is no absolute need for a secondary token right now. But if it makes sense from a financial perspective, the decentralized organization that we have can possibly vote on that, decide on that, and then introduce a secondary token.
Let me follow up there with that. What do you believe? Because everyone's doing governance tokens right now. And I want to open this up maybe to the entire panel, but you can lead off with it, Ali. And that is, what do you believe is the pain points of governance right now? Do you believe that there needs to be a centralized curve to the governance? Do you feel like fully decentralized? Because it seems like a lot of projects are having issues with the initial launch of governance and protecting themselves from nefarious actors that may want to take part in that, or having too big of an influence from someone who holds too much power within a governance. What's the fair distribution for governance, and where do you see the pain points going into the future, as it'll be such an important topic over the next 2 to 4 years and beyond in crypto?
So we've seen some major issues with the way that decentralized organizations operate right now. One of them is not reaching quorum. So there's these decentralized protocols that have these different votes that are initiated, but then there is not enough participation to really reach the minimum voting requirements. So most of the stakers or holders that receive these governance tokens don't really participate in any of the government functionalities. That's one major issue. The second that we've seen, for an example, BitShares. So BitShares has a plutocratic system in the sense that whoever has a higher number of tokens, they have a higher voting power, which is what it makes sense in the conventional wisdom kind of sense. But we've seen that results in forming of these syndicates. So people are merging together. They're forming these sort of cartels and then overtaking and overrunning the overall governance system, which really hinders the growth of the ecosystem. We've seen that with BitShares. We've seen that with several other decentralized systems in the space. What I believe is an ideal approach to do this, which again, I'd be biased because that's the approach that we're taking, is like you mentioned, a centralized curve to really decentralization. One of the models that we're following is one member, one vote. So even though individual stakers might have a larger stake in the overall staking pool, but each member as an individual has a single vote, so that it's fairer. It makes the government process more interactive, and then we have certain safeguards that certain slashing mechanisms that ensures that all of these actors that participate in governance, they do so in a way that is well intentioned in a sense, and they're more active and participating. So we have this reputation system that we're working on, and we're definitely following a curve towards complete decentralization, because launching a decentralized organization right off the bat has many limitations. Like I mentioned, not being able to reach quorum, running the risk of people forming syndicates and overrunning the entire, hampering the integrity of the entire process. That's just my opinion on.
Yeah, I believe Reserve told me last year they had mentioned that they weren't even going to put out a DAO governance structure because it was just too big of an issue for one company to solve. Ankle,
I just wanted to check one thing with Ali. So I just wanted to know, how are you going to identify each person? So if a person has multiple accounts, how are you going to identify whether one person is holding those accounts or if it is actually an individual?
Right. So that's why we have a slashing mechanism in place. Right now, the way that we do it is that each individual's identity is associated with either a Twitter ID, or ideally Twitter, because it's difficult to have multiple Twitter IDs associated with different wallet addresses. So the way that we're addressing this right now with the group that we have and the new DAO members that are joining in, that you could have multiple addresses. You could have over 4 addresses associated with a single DAO account. So that's how we're addressing it right now. It's you don't need to really disclose your identity, but you have to be pseudo-anonymous. You have to have a virtual identity, which may not be linked with your real identity. So that's how we're doing it right now. Yeah.
To a Twitter. Okay.
And Denko, do you have any?
Yeah, actually, I think, I agree. Like I like all like the Ali's approach. I think there is like one more like component that I think it's really needed, is the incentive mechanism. So as we've seen, like not just in this cycle, in the previous cycle, we have a lot of people who just want to like hold the token like for speculation purposes, and they don't really want to ever become power users, which is fine. And what happens, at least what we are working on in Reef, people want to stake their tokens and earn money. So one way is like what happens to those tokens that are staked. So maybe some power users, they can like borrow from the pool and increase their voting power. Again, there has to be some nerfing function that takes care of not over leveraging your voting power, but also maybe like certain mechanism which will award people if they vote on certain proposal is also a good idea, which can then they can get maybe some, if you participate in certain voting, maybe you can get some form of like NFT, which if you have this NFT on your wallet and you stake into that pool, your returns are amplified. So I think something around monetary incentive, and I think we'll get there.
Like a reputation system, right? Makes sense.
Sounds good. Sounds good, guys. I want to go straight through to some questions now for Spherium. We've got quite a few questions, so I'm going to go kind of back and forth. And I think having this kind of roundtable kind of chat in terms of different ideas from the different projects is great. So let's kind of keep that going if we can. So first question would be for Spherium here. So someone's asking what chain that your project is running on, and would it also have kind of interaction with other chains as well?
Yes, so currently we have built it on as an ERC20, it's built on Ethereum. So layer 1 solution is based on Ethereum, and but layer 2 solutions we are planning to bring in cross-chain capability. So we are considering using Polkadot or Cosmos for it. But so these are all being in consideration because there are various things which we are right now exploring. So our research analysts are actually exploring the option of using ZK rollups for reducing the cost as well. So there are various things which we are trying to bring together because ZK rollup and zero knowledge proof is a very new concept, and not many projects have still been able to execute it properly. So we are trying to bring everything together so that so we are going to launch as an ERC20 token. It will be built on Ethereum as a layer 1 solution. So it is in testing right now. Layer 2 will have cross-chain capability. So
Great
then we'll
stuff.
be able to bring in all these, we'll be able to bring in more blockchains together.
No, it sounds very positive. It actually kind of is on a theme. I know we mentioned this yesterday, Matt, on day one, where we were kind of posing the question to the panel, specifically around integration and kind of capabilities of building off of the Polkadot ecosystem. And it feels like there's some kind of like thought processes here, obviously with that. So it's good to hear.
It's funny, and I think this is another good general question to carry off of that conversation that we had yesterday. You know, a lot of people in there were very excited about Matic. I think one of the projects specifically, maybe more, is choosing Matic integration. It seems interoperability is not a one fit all, though I do think that Polkadot can really solidify itself as that push, right? It seemed that Matic was really the current solution for the project yesterday, but the main takeaway from that discussion was that, hey, you know, Matic's already out and we can use that now, and we're focusing on what can benefit us now, not what can benefit us in the future. And it seems like the narrative today, because a lot of projects are thinking 3-6 months out, that Polkadot might be that solution then, when we're more established or when we can build up our product. So why don't we go in the reverse order this time and hear the opinions of what the what Polkadot is as a scaling solution, or where do you see scalability and interoperability in the future for crypto? Is it a one size fits all? Is there a clear leader? What is your opinions? We'll start with Denko.
Sure. Actually, you know, one really cool about like Polkadot, the way, like, I mean, you know, when we say Polkadot, it's an instance of a certain system, right? Then you have Kusama, which is again another instance of that system. Just like we had like Bitcoin and Litecoin, certain parameters are different. But one very important thing about Polkadot is that a parachain doesn't necessarily mean that it's a blockchain. So you have to just implement few things that are like required. Like, for example, the first one is the state transition mechanism, and the second one is the mechanism to validate that the state transition, to easily validate the state transition without having to run all the operations that lead to that outcome. So you can build anything. So what happens is, I think, for example, certain projects will show up that they can process really a lot on chain. Like it's definitely not one size fit all, because you have all of those different parachain slots, and on each of them we can attach like a completely different blockchain, or not even called blockchain, that can eventually, through this cross messaging protocol, can communicate with the other chains as well. So if you take a look at Darwinia, for example, they're a bridge that's an actual parachain. So what allows this to, and on top of that, you can deploy a runtime palette, which have EVM support. So you have, oh, here is Ethereum instance on a certain, like, for example, Moonbeam or Plasm and so on. So I think those are the things that, you know, Polkadot allows us to do. It's like kind of, we can still reuse whatever has been built on Ethereum first. Second, we can talk to Ethereum. And third, we can build some other, you know, piece of software that's not necessarily blockchain, where we can process a lot of things. And then, you know, people can come with different design. They can run nodes, which are like high computational. Maybe like people will in 10 years from now, their garage will be like supercomputers that are connected to some network that will actually do something useful, instead of just you know, doing what the proof of work algorithms are doing. So definitely not one, it's not a one size fit all, but it's very, very, very adaptable solution.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And Anshul?
Yes, so for Spherium, actually, this is a requirement. I'll tell you the reason for that. So the reason why we are trying to build a solution which is a one-stop solution is that what we have seen is the adoption of DeFi has been limited to only very few people who are able to use, who know what is compound, who know what is Uniswap, and who may be able to use Frontier Wallet or these solutions together, and then only they'll be able to navigate through this solution. But the real adoption will come from solutions like PayPal, who are going to make it so easy for you to buy Bitcoin that anyone can go ahead and do it. In current financial systems, when we have when you go to a bank, you don't have to go to 2 3 4 banks for buying something and for lending, for staking, for depositing your money. It's only one solution. So our target market is not just the people who are there in the crypto markets right now. They might be the first adopters, but our target market is a lot bigger. We want to bring this DeFi solution to people who are currently staying away from DeFi, for whom it is very difficult. Those people are more interested in, say, buying Bitcoin. They are keeping their money invested in Bitcoin. So if we want people who buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and keep them in their systems, we want to bring this DeFi solution to all the blockchains. So Polkadot or Cosmos or whatever, EOS blockchain is there, we have Ethereum. So Matic is only built on Ethereum. So Matic might not be a solution for us, because we want the people who hold assets like Bitcoin, who hold assets like Ethereum, who hold EOS in their wallets, to be able to use it in DeFi. So that is the reason for us. It is something which we have, which is very important, though it might be a little later on our timeline, on our roadmap, but this is certainly a requirement for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Ali?
I have a follow-up question on that,
Yeah.
Mike, if I may ask. So, I mean, that's a very valid point, Achal, because that was my next question, which I was having in my mind. That DeFi is in very nascent stage right now. Although, from $400 million to somewhere around $14 billion in just like 8 to 9 months is a huge growth. But still, it's a very nascent number. And the only way to take it further, to its further growth is retail adoption, right?
Okay.
To take DeFi space, the DeFi services to those retail traders and retail people who wants to borrow or lend their money, right? And how do you think? I mean, this question is to all the panelists here, because every one of you is working in some sort of DeFi protocol. So, how do you think that retail adoption can be achieved, looking at the global scenario of crypto adoption at the present moment?
See, I have been mostly looking at the regulations and the growth in different geographies. And the thing which is happening since the last 2 years is that there is adoption and governments are bringing positive regulations, but everywhere they want KYC AML. So KYC AML plus, bringing in regulated organizations who are able to comply to the requirements and giving them licenses is what these areas are doing. So whether it is Singapore or US or Europe, they all want to have licensed entities operating in this space. So if you want to build a project which will sustain for a longer term, which can actually have partnerships with bigger organizations, regulated organizations, you need to have a project which should be able to support different requirements like lending, staking, deposits, trading, swap, everything in one. Second point, it should be very much compliant. So we have in our roadmap, we have KYC ML as a part of it. That's why I asked Ali how he is going to handle, how he is going to know whether these accounts are for one person or for multiple people. By doing KYC ML, you are able to identify the person who's going to interact with DeFi. So in DeFi, the major thing which attracts people is that it is autonomous. But if you keep things autonomous, probably government might try to close it down at some point of time, might not be happy with this. They are bringing banks who are going to be custodians for cryptocurrencies. So when they're going to be custodians, they are going to know who's going to hold this currency, whether it is Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS, or whatever currency. So if you want to be compliant, if you want to be there for the next 10 years, your project has to comply with these requirements. And that is the way I think we should go ahead. We should be as compliant. We should try to work with the governments rather than working against them. So that
So
is the way. Yeah.
essentially, we can say, if I say that uh, instead of changing the whole system, what blockchain and crypto and DeFi, particularly DeFi here, should do is to get along with the existing system and innovate in a way that provides those services to those people
Yes.
were not able to access these services because of those regulated or authoritatively governed entities. So
Yes.
that's what
So
DeFi should do, right?
DeFi can actually make world a global village. I don't, if I want to have a bank account, I need to have it within Indian bank. If I go to any other country, I need to have some kind of passport or some kind of work visa to have an account over there. In DeFi space, that requirement goes away. But at least if you are able to identify the person who's interacting with your blockchain, with your platform, then I'm sure that none of the governing entities in any of the country will have issue. So don't make DeFi anonymous. Otherwise, you will not be allowed to operate in certain areas, especially the areas which are very well regulated. And those are the places which are actually going to give a boost. So we have so many projects in blockchain space. Square, which is a Nasdaq listed company. They have investors like Goldman Sachs, and they started, I guess, in 2013. By 2020, they have their billions of dollars of valuation, and that happened only because they're working in the regulated environment and adding value through blockchain. So I believe that a project which is going to be in add a concept of regulation along with the decentralized finance and blockchain will be able to sustain in the long term. And that is the reason we have brought in our project, we will see there are a lot of people from the business side along with the technical folks who are there. So by bringing in that knowledge, we were even trying to bring in investment bankers. So we are in talks with such people because we want to work with them. We don't want to just work with individual retailers who might just be maybe buying the token for flipping. So that is not what we are looking for the long term.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think I guess that's how the industry and the sector has kind of evolved over the last sort of 12 to 24 months. I think most of us that have been in the space for some time, in the very early stages, it was very much kind of like hobbyists and evangelists looking at kind of their little piece of the pie and controlling that kind of narrative. And I think as you say there, Anchal, hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yes.
I think the way we kind of are now kind of like evolving is we need to start thinking this more in a global adoption way, and we can't fight against governments and these structures, but if we work with them, hopefully they'll adapt to a more, I guess, efficient way of working. So I mean I think that was really
in fact, Dave, if you to bring into your knowledge, Achal happens to be a chartered accountant in India.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And she's also very pro startup, pro blockchain, and obviously pro government from her background. And that is where the comments are coming from. To bring into perspective and add on to the same line of thoughts, TDeFi has one of the primary focuses of educating projects, startups for this long-term value of integrating with real-world finance, and that won't happen with NN projects. The world out there, they don't understand the value of decentralization as much as they understand the value of compliance. And it is for the same reason we have 128 plus banks integrated with Ripple, and probably just 3 with Bitcoin, that too in the last 3 weeks, right? This is the biggest reason and the power of compliance. So if we have to take decentralization to heights, we have got to be compliant, we've got to be regulated, and that too not in the odd destinations of the world, no Bahamas, no Seychelles. We're talking about UK FCA authorization. We're talking about US SEC, probably BVI, because they have worked well with the largest projects, Tether and Bitfinex. And Malta happened to be one good place, but it's not doing so well. Bahrain, where Ali sits, has made a name in the last 1 year, in fact, 1.5 years. Just last week, there was Abu Dhabi Finance Convention, and there was a good side of blockchain and crypto projects there as well. So, I mean, let's look at the places that can give you a highway to real world finance than creating an entirely new ecosystem of digital assets that would fight with the governance and compliance of the world for eternity, so to say.
No, that's a valuable point. Thanks for that, Gaurav. I think it was very enlightening, and actually, I think somebody from a good understanding from the traditional markets and also the cryptocurrency market, and so I think you're speaking there from a lot of experience, which I think is really important there. So we're going to keep this going, guys. I think this discussion's been extremely powerful in terms of group discussion. We have a question now for Tidal, and then we're going to move to Reef, and then we're just going to keep that going around, guys, because there's more questions coming through than we could possibly get through. And I appreciate for some of you it's getting quite late, so we do appreciate you hanging around. So Tidal, quick question for you. When will your mainnet be live? Mainnet be live? I don't know if we asked you on that on the original thing, but if we didn't,
I don't think Tidal's
I don't
here.
think Tidal is here.
Oh, Tidal's left. Okay.
No.
So let's skip Tidal then. So straight to Reef. The majority of liquidity you say right now is in ETH or on ETH. So how are you planning to expand that community?
We are the demo that I showcased is actually on Ethereum. So what happens is, we will have our infrastructure deployed on multiple ecosystems. And at this point, we decided to not be a parachain ourselves, but we are deploying on multiple parachains. And then through the bridging layers and through the interoperability layers, that's how we are defragmenting the ecosystems. So definitely Ethereum. And as I heard here, a lot of people are first Ethereum first, and then certain things. So what happens is, Polkadot is not about are you on Polkadot or on Ethereum. It's about defragmenting. So if you're on Polkadot, you can be pretty much anywhere. So
yeah. Gotcha. Does anyone else on the panel have any questions specifically to Reef that they want to, or Danka? I don't know if you guys heard his pitch earlier.
Yeah, so actually we are also when usually people ask about centralized exchanges liquidity, where we will definitely have KYC gateway there. So it's eventually it's a hybrid where if people can do those things there without KYC, we'll let them do it because things just flow through us. But if there is a KYC step, it has to be done, and we are building something like a relayer. So you'll just do it once, and we are not even collecting it ourselves, and then we can just integrate with multiple KYC providers, so it will be easily relayable. You don't have to, send it 10 times to different providers.
So this is an important question for you guys because Brian Armstrong just recently talked about how the Trump administration was planning on releasing this guidance or this executive order that would require all wallets to have KYC in order to send crypto from one to the other. And obviously this isn't tangible because you can't force Bitcoin to do that. So instead it would become this proactive enforcement and stifle innovation, especially for DeFi when it comes to platforms like Uniswap. And you spoke about centralized gateways having KYCs. Obviously, they need to protect themselves. They need to protect themselves from regulators who are going to want to come down hard on them. But are you pro KYC or anti KYC? Do you think that hurts the space? Do you think it benefits the space? Is it somewhere in between? Where do we find the middle ground, and how do we get regulators to accept that? Because that's the biggest.
I see it as my middle ground. So on one end, the fact that we have the word DeFi is because the traditional financial world was overregulated. Otherwise, we wouldn't be there. It would have been called fintech. So I think being fully non-KYC is obviously dangerous, and it has like very bad sides. but on the other side, over regulation also hurts the innovation. So I think like certain balance needs to happen here. And I think that this infrastructure, I'm talking about all the projects, all the ecosystems, it's I think quite easy to adapt to like to some KYC rules. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any opinions on that?
I am completely pro KYC, Matty. So I'll give you one small example. That might not be the case with everyone, but for me, one of my accounts was hacked, and I lost some amount in that, and that amount was taken from my wallet. It was divided into 2 wallets, then from those 2 wallets into 4 to 8, and then at the end I recognized that they were going away. And in Australia, some local Bitcoin type for Australia, where they might be doing some peer-to-peer trade, they were selling very, very small amounts. So when you say no KYC, such kind of hacks are happening because they're able to sell and convert it into fiat somewhere, maybe in smaller amounts, because you can create 1,000 accounts without KYC. If KYC is not required for say $1,000 or $10,000, they can create 10,000 accounts using bots and sell through those 10,000 accounts. I feel for everywhere, if you do a KYC, no one person can create 10,000 accounts, and then the number of hacks will also reduce, because if they cheat and they try to steal funds from anyone and try to sell anywhere, they can be tracked. The only thing which is required is collaboration between governments. So this is something which is not happening. The transfer of data between different I mean, if you say that it is going to happen in US, Trump government might bring their regulations, but it is not happening in India. It is not happening in Singapore. It is not happening in London.
Do you recall if KuCoin or Binance, when they were hacked and people lost a ton of money?
Yes.
I'm fairly confident those accounts had to be KYC to be able to extend past the minimum requirement. What prevented those exchanges from getting your money back?
I guess they even there, I think the level of KYC is low. For smaller accounts, you don't need. For transferring in Binance, for transferring up to $10,000, you don't need to provide a lot of documents. You can just
They got compromised for millions of dollars, right?
Yeah. So, but then if you are able to create multiple accounts, and if you have a syndicate of people who are doing it, it is possible to carry it out without KYC. So, so if using bots, anything can be done in an automated manner.
I think it's a very good point, and I think there's a kind of a challenge here for a lot of projects. I know all of you guys are acutely aware of the fact that there's still a pretty strong kind of ecosystem of people that have come into the space that they've almost coined this whole kind of decentralized freedom to an art form, where actually I think they're kind of getting maybe a little bit too confused in terms of, being completely autonomous means that, they're doing something good for humanity. And I think, anti-government and this type of thing. But ultimately, I think anybody that's been in this space long enough has had that moment or two where you kind of have that freak out, your account, I had one today. I had one today with my phone. I was chatting with Matt earlier. Literally, I have an iPhone, and let's not get into, Android against Macs. But my Android, my mobile decided to upgrade itself, and literally my authentication, Google authentication, got completely wiped, and I had this panic moment for a second, because now all my exchange wallets, I couldn't access any of those, and so I ran to my books that I kind of keep all that information in to find my secret keys and all this stuff, and thankfully I managed to get it sorted. But I look back to Cryptopia, a few years ago, and obviously those guys had problems. I had a bunch of coins on there, and I hadn't done KYC at that point, and it wasn't anything to do with lacking of interest in doing that. I just didn't get around to it, and that's gone, because how do they track down an individual that hasn't done any kind of KYC? So I think there's a happy medium between, like you were saying, government kind of like oversight, which can be overbearing and cumbersome. And I think, as you mentioned, Denko, this is DeFi, not sorry, what was the phrase you mentioned again?
Fintech.
Fintech, exactly. So I think the thing here for us is anyone serious in this space, and I think even your evangelists, they understand the value of having less oversight, but having completely no oversight is actually harmful to evolution, both financial and technology. And so it's really good to see that all the panel guests here are smart enough and wise enough to see that.
I'll play the devil's advocate.
I want to hear from Ali, but first I will state that that I don't think any individual wallet should be KYC'd. Off and on ramps, perfectly fine. Legitimate major exchanges, perfectly fine. Creating KYCs for personal wallets is very dangerous, and it leads us back to historical incidents where things like gold were confiscated or people were tracked down because of their wealth. And I think it sets a very dangerous precedent. But Ali, I want you to step in here because you haven't had a chance to speak on maybe the last two questions because everyone obviously wants to talk. Why don't you give us an opportunity to hear your viewpoints on maybe some of the things that we've been discussing?
I'll play the devil's advocate here from a BTC or Ethereum maximalist perspective. What Achal mentioned about a hack and losing assets, and what David mentioned, I'd imagine you're losing funds from a centralized venue and a centralized exchange getting hacked, or you're losing your 2FA authentication for a centralized platform. The beauty of decentralized finance is that, for instance, Uniswap is never going down unless Ethereum goes down, which, I mean, with the number of validators, with the number of stakers that we have, it's just not happening. So while I agree that level of KYC is essential, it entirely depends on your business model. The business model of Uniswap, the way that it is designed, and several other DeFi protocols, the way their real business works, they don't really need KYC. That's not to say it shouldn't be done, but entirely depends on what kind of a business you have. If you're a centralized exchange that's managing somebody else's assets because you're making it easier because if you talk about DeFi, you have to manage your private keys, you're using MetaMask or using Wallet Connect or something else. But in case of DeFi, you're responsible for your own assets. So it's financial freedom gets highlighted in all of this, but it's also financial independence, which comes with a bit of responsibility that you have to be responsible of how you use your funds or how you manage your private keys. So while KYC, I think, is essential, it entirely depends on what kind of a business model you're talking about. I think that, I guess one of the question was, how do you really reach a middle ground when it comes to institutional investors or organizations wanting to become a part of this whole DeFi revolution that we're seeing at this point? And I think that KYC or regulations for these institutional investors becomes important and can be incorporated for them so that they can be regulated appropriately and follow all of the regulations depending on whichever area or country or regulatory body they fall under. But I don't think that it's applicable. And back to your point, Matt, I don't think KYC for every single wallet address makes sense. I think that it's super counterproductive, and it goes pretty much against the whole ethos of decentralization that we talk about. So again, I agree with having the need for KYC, but entirely depends on what kind of a business model that you have and what kind of system that you're operating with.
I think I have to, I have a soft shell here, if I'm allowed to. But if I'm not, I'll simply go on with the example of whatever the project name is. There's a project I am or we are presently heavily invested in, and they are sort of in the middle of what we are discussing here. The core chain has a trust core like the civil, like the what do you call that in the credit score in the UK. And CIBIL score in India, and different names in different countries. So I have this credit scoring system based on KYC. The core chain, the main chain, has a centralized data structure to hold that KYC, while the privacy remains intact on the core chain. And by the virtue of that, they've been scaling in the early stages, have onboarded large e-commerces. So they work in on-ramp, off-ramp, and loyalty point structure. So and that really worked out well for them to integrate with the largest bank in Japan, the largest bank in Indonesia, and that I'm not talking about a project that has gained a multi-billion-dollar market cap like Ripple, or has people in the team that are amongst the top CEOs of top banks in the world, again like Ripple. I'm just simply talking about a project that has the necessary maturity and sincerity to understand how the world works, how the finance world works particularly, and that did really played out well in their favor. They have I now, with all that details out, I cannot actually name them, but they are integrated to systems that have like 10 times more active users than Ethereum itself. So the day it all goes into action, you're talking about a larger ecosystem created in seconds with these systems going live. I'm simply trying to put in the perspective that, yeah, decentralization is fancy. It does play a vital role wherever it has to, but it totally depends on you as a business, as a startup, on what your exact target is, what is your trajectory. You want to live and die, if at all, like Satoshi, or you want to build up a business that changes life, changes the ecosystem, brings in a sustainable business model altogether, and has tremendous capabilities to grow, or you want to be like a gladiator always in the ring, fighting with compliance and fiduciary borders.
Agreed. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
I mean, as I said, it depends a lot on the nature of the project and the way that they the business model works and the way that they plan on operating. So I kind of agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a part of evolution, right, is to find that happy ground. I mean, ultimately, we're in a situation right now where there's a huge amount of lack of trust in government bodies, and certainly in terms of if you like, financial institutions, and rightly so in some cases. And I think, one of the reasons why I think most of us all came into the crypto ecosystem was because we had that feeling that something needed to change. I think the challenge here is, rather than fight against the establishment completely, I think we need to find, ways to reduce that barrier of entry so that we kind of come together. Because I think ultimately, each of us individually, humanity as a whole, they're looking for the same things. We're looking for more trusting kind of ecosystems within the establishment. We don't want it to reduce technology development through too many barriers of entry. And I think that goes to your point, specifically around individual circumstances are relevant to what you're trying to achieve. I think technology, I'm excited about how things have developed already in such a short space of time in the DeFi space. They'll probably no longer, I can also almost imagine in the not too distant future, there'll be some kind of personal securitized structure on some of these decentralized platforms, where if you, for instance, something goes the wrong place, you can find a way of getting it back. And I think that's ultimately what we're all here to do, right? Drive development, drive technology change, and then hopefully that sort of feeds into maybe the less, if you like, developed people in society who probably fear what we're involved in right now and probably don't really understand what we're doing. But fundamentally, that's what we're here to do. So this is a really successful roundtable, guys. There's still a huge amount of questions to go. I'm just mindful of Rishabh, how are we doing with the scheduling?
I think we've been on for an hour, so maybe we should. I don't know. Do you guys want to keep going, Dubai, or should we start wrapping up?
I think depends on the questions, and if people are available, let's quickly simply just take questions and answers, because we'll post these videos through our channel and for all of you to share amongst your own community. So I think if there is a question, it ought to be answered precisely by the teammate rather than taking rounds amongst all of us. I think that'll be a better approach to fulfill the community requirements.
Got it. How about we do a lightning? Yeah, how about we do a lightning round, because I think there's at least 5 to 10 questions. So let's just keep the answers brief. I know we have a lot to say, but if we're going to get through this in a timely fashion, that'll probably be the best way. So we'll start with Antonio. Who would you classify as your #1 competitor?
I think I answered that earlier. The DEX that we have could be the smart DEX that we have can be considered a competitor to the other decentralized exchanges in the space. The market making platform that we have, or the trading terminal, can be compared with some of the other competitors like 3Commas and a few others that exist. So yeah, because we have a wide variety of products, there's a few different competitors that we could name, such as any decentralized exchange or AMM or market making or automated trading tool in the space.
Okay. How much return did you generate during backtesting data?
Tobias, you want to take that?
Oh yeah, that varies actually a lot because it depends on the market, it depends on the settings. Basically, actually, we don't have the algo trading terminal going at the moment, so that there will be a new iteration early next year, because our focus is mainly on market making at the moment, because this is where we see the main value proposition at the moment, because liquidity is heavily needed in the DeFi space at the moment. So, but the algo trading terminal will be will be revived early next year, and yeah, but I've seen some insane results, especially back in 2017 while the bull run. Someone ran it on XVG, I don't know. They had some insane results for sure.
Okay. What type of AI models do you plan on using? AI machine learning models?
So we're using reinforcement learning agents. We have certain predictive models like LSTM predictive models. We're using a combination of them. Ikram could probably shed a bit light on that. He's manages operations and development at Autonio and is in charge of even the AI stuff, working closely with Singularity Net, Ben Gertzman, and folks from there.
Cool. Is your mainnet product live, and do you have traction on it?
Basically,
we're waiting for Ikram.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are basically making 2 kind of AI models in the initial state. We will build out a reinforcement learning agent that will be basically a market making agent, and another model that we will use will be LSTM model that will predict price of the pair, of the selected pair. So yeah, we plan to use these models, and in our IMM we introduce we'll introduce
basically a combination of these different AI agents and even sentiment analysis that will be incorporated to improve the performance of the IMMs.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
Do you have a mainnet out, and if so, is it gaining traction?
Yes, we have 3 products live right now. It has a fair bit of traction. We've seen over a few thousand sessions, over $2 million in liquidity provided. We recently launched our smart DEX on Matic mainnet as well. So we're getting a fair bit of traction now, and it's just early stages for us, and a lot to look forward to.
Gotcha. What will be the rewards for liquidity providers?
So the liquidity mining protocol has sponsors that can customize the amount of rewards that any liquidity provider would receive. So it would depend a lot on which token sponsor is sponsoring the liquidity mining campaign and the exchange that we're working with. So anybody who basically provides liquidity would be able to see what fixed APY they will be receiving for participating in a specific campaign. And through a marketplace, a user can see a list of 10, 15, 20 different liquidity mining campaigns that are live, choose the APY that fits them best, and get moving on that.
Gotcha. And then, will there be any crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto on-ramp solutions?
No, this is not our nature of the business that we have. We worry too much about regulations as well. So fiat crypto on ramps is just something not that we're considering right now, and we're focused purely on a decentralized infrastructure.
Sure. Can you tell us maybe some plans of how you plan to expand your community?
We have there will be ongoing campaigns. We start later this month, job campaign where you can earn basically NIOX tokens while running the market maker on pairings you like on an exchange that is integrated in this. So we hope to get a lot more users mainly onboarded through this, and we will have some ambassador programs later next year.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the questions for Safarium. That's all right. Which project is your chain on?
Ethereum.
Yeah,
Layer 1 solution is on Ether, and layer 2 solution might be on Polkadot.
Okay, we covered that one.
I think you should start with question 3, Matt.
Gotcha. Is your product live?
No, not yet. We've just started testing, so we are in the very early stage right now. We in our roadmap, our app will be live by end of January with the layer 1 solutions. With the layer 2 solutions, it is going to go on till Q3 2021.
Cool. Awesome. What's your plans for community building as well?
For community building, currently we already have more than 1,500 people on our Telegram. We have some people on Medium. So overall, we have close to 2,500 people following us, and we are at a very early stage. Plans for future are, first of all, we have some plans to bring in. We are more focused on bringing in at the early stage open source developers to test out the product, because we are more concerned about the security aspects. So we'll be conducting few hackathons. We'll be conducting a lot of security audits. So we'll be giving out community benefits for the people who are going to audit the protocol and audit our smart contracts. So initial people who are going to be a part of our community should be from the people who are actually going to use, or maybe will be able to help our protocol. And then going ahead, we'll be for bringing in more projects to our platform to list their tokens. We have a very generous, I should say, rewards program, because our we have kept more than 40% of our total supply, and supply is also not huge. It is only 70 million. More than 40% of that supply is kept only for the rewards mechanism. So a combination of all these factors.
Awesome. Has your smart contract been audited?
Not yet. We are in talk with a couple of some of the providers who are going to audit our smart contracts, but we have not yet done our internal testing till now. So our internal testing is in progress right now.
Okay. Can you please talk about your unique selling proposition or your USP?
So we have few USPs. First unique USP is that it is going to be a one-stop solution, especially for so that we can bring and so this is going to be the major point where the user experience will change. So in one particular platform, in one particular wallet, they're going to get a desktop, an app where they'll be able to stake, they'll be able to lend, they'll be able to swap. So we have Hyperswap, we have Sphere Comp, we have multiple solutions, Sphere Vault, all built into one place. So you don't have to go to multiple places. So that is the first USP. Second point where we are differentiating ourselves is based that we have KYC AML, which is going to be built into the solution. Third is our cross-chain capability, which is not there yet with any of the AMM solutions which is there in the market. And fourth, I would say, is our team. So I would say that my team itself is decentralized. We have people from different geographies who are working together, and we have seasoned businessmen who are actually trying to bring this product to market. It's not just a small team; it's a big team that is working together.
Great. And the final question is, do you have any general idea how big your APY will be for your platform?
General idea is initially it will be quite high. It's I can't give you the right figures right now, but it is in high 3 figures.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's move over to the questions for Reef. Have you asked any of these yet, David?
So I think in terms of Reef, we I think we asked the first question. So maybe we just carry on from that point.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of the questions were asked during the AMA as well, since we've had some more time. So we'll just keep it siloed to the last two. How will the analytics engine help users?
That's a great question. So basically, they don't have to worry about the analytics engine because it's plugged into the front end. So based on the risk level that people choose, the analytics engine in real time gives the best, composition of assets where the users should get in. While in the background, the analytics engine is an extremely complex system, and we've been working on this for over a year and a half now. It's probably almost 2 years now. And what we did is we did a lot of data collecting from 3 different sources. So we do collect exchange data, social media data, and blockchain traffic. And we do some heavy computation on it to extract certain metrics out of it, correlation between those metrics. And out of those metrics, then we further derive risk levels. And the front end just, based on what risk level the user chooses, will just propose you like something. And this engine works in real time and keeps collecting the data. So it actually powered like big funds. They did the decision making were based on our metrics last year. It was a B2B model before we decided to move into DeFi.
Awesome. So I think David maybe had covered this, but I'll rephrase. I'll state the question and rephrase it to give you an opportunity. So someone asks, is the token swapping feature available now? Why don't you just give us a generalized refresher for the viewers that are watching in terms of your roadmap and when the deliverable dates on your roadmap are expected?
Yeah, so the initial version is coming by the end of this year. So we want to have TG, and then we aim like few weeks after TG will happen the product launch. So there are 2 like tracks regarding the swapping mechanism. One is the actual distributed way where we are building the wallet, which will allow the users to easily like access the bridges without them having to do anything. While the second one is we are actually integrating on top of the available infrastructure. So if there is an available route, how to get the users funds from place such as Ethereum to Kava, we'll do it. So we are currently working on, for example, utilizing the bridge that Kava deployed. So they have certain activities going on there, and then this will be probably the first bridge that we'll have live in Q1. Awesome. That we'll utilize in Q1. Yeah.
Cool.
That's great. Actually, Matt, we've got a couple more questions that we've just come in for both Spherium as well as Autonio. So I don't know if these have been answered, but this is for Spherium. Can you give us an idea in terms of traction on your beta net of your product right now? I don't think we've asked this question yet.
We have actually not yet launched it to public. So BetaNet is not launched yet, so can't actually comment on that.
Okay.
Yes, we are quite early, I would say.
Gotcha. So in terms of implementation, you've got a lot of features that you've mentioned. Is it planned to put all these on one platform or have multi-products? What's the thought process?
So it will be on one platform in the same app. People will be able to select the different options that they want to use. Like if they want to use Sphere Swap, Hyper Swap, we have Sphere Comp and Sphere Vault. So they can select all those options in their app and in the desktop.
Gotcha. There's another question specific to that. I'll rephrase it a little. So in terms of other DeFi protocols out there right now, what would you say is your kind of more kind of redeeming qualities that kind of stand out?
Redeeming qualities in the sense USP, is it? Unique selling point. One, so do I've already answered it?
I think you've answered that one. You're
yes,
right. You're
yes.
right. Okay, fine. And then last one is pretty generic. How are you planning to manage gas fees in terms of your product?
Yes, that's where our ZK zero knowledge proof concept comes in. So we want to reduce the gas fees quite a lot, and in fact, we want to go gasless as well in future. So that is how we, so very low gas can be brought in if we are able to scale up using ZK proof consensus mechanism. So we're trying to identify whether we'll be able to, how quickly we can integrate it into our product. So that research is still going on. So that is how we're planning to do that.
Gotcha. I guess that's a question for all the projects on the panel really today as well, because I think that's a question that came in for Antonio as well. And I don't know if Reef, maybe you can answer that question too. Seems to be a pretty general question and obviously quite an important one.
Regarding the gas fees?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so actually that's a great question, because the initial version will probably have quite some fees because we are doing all the routing. So what happens is we're working on this pooling mechanism. So all the basket orders will be taken into a lightweight smart contract, and they will buffer there. And then either after a certain time frame, which is like number of blocks or certain amount buffered, this contract will be callable, and then one person will pay pretty much all the gas fees. And then in the background, the smart contract will take a very small cut percentage from the users' allocations, because if they pay the gas fees themselves, it might be a huge chunk percentage-wise of their allocation. And this mechanism is coming in Q1.
Gotcha. Antonio?
I think we are basically, our users are not dependent on any gas fees, because our exchange runs on this is based on 0x, and it runs on so the fees don't play that much of a role. Gas fees.
Good response. Yeah. Maybe that's something the three of you guys can collaborate on. Let's get those gas fees.
True,
yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. So I think that's pretty much it for the questions. We could go on forever on this. We really appreciated your time. I personally was super impressed by the pitches today. We had some great pitches yesterday. I think we've done a really we've kind of taken it up to the next level, in my opinion. So I really appreciate your time and your patience, both for Spherium and Antonio. Maybe just on a kind of a more anecdotal kind of perspective, I'd be really interested in how you guys came up with the names of your projects. I don't know if that's something you can give us a backstory on. Hopefully there's some interesting stories there. We've had a few questions in the past where the story behind was pretty basic, and that's no attack on anyone, but I'd be notably interested.
I think for us, it was back then when Ali and founded Antonio with his partner back then. It was like they thought about calling it the automated nexus of intelligent operations, I think. But I think it was basically because an .io website, so that name fitted then.
Okay, love it.
Yeah.
For Reef, yeah, thanks. So for Reef, since we are building on top of financial primitives, and in the ocean, all the sea animals meet around the reef. That's the analogy, where we are combining all the financial primitives into one place. And people love the ocean animals here, oh, he's a whale, he's a fish. That's why I chose to call it Reef.
So you weren't holidaying. Ecosystem. Yeah, you weren't holidaying and swimming out in the Barrier Reef in Australia and just thought, that's cool. Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have
How about Spherium? Let's get Spherium in here.
Yeah, for Spherium, actually, we have this circular economy. So we call our ecosystem as a circular economy. So that's where from where Sphere came into picture, and that's where we brought in Spherium as the name, and finance. So Spherium Finance came from the circular economy. Yeah.
Maybe Gaurav, you could jump in here and explain the meaning behind Trade Dog.
I think I have a better story to share. I thought we'll share that during the pitch day, during the opening notes. But the idea of TDeFi actually came from this man. We were driving to Delhi. Atik was sleeping, and this guy out of the blue, when we were all, David, Matt, we were all struggling to find the best pitches, the best projects in DeFi, all of that. And we were thinking of ways to source more deals in order to satisfy the demands coming from TDeFi investors. This guy came out of nowhere, looking outside, came out with the idea that why not we start an accelerator with all the resources we have sitting in hands. And right then, for everyone who isn't aware of the rest of the thing, we posted that on the group, and before Atik could wake up, TDeFi was formed already with name, with the domain, with the page. I mean, the team was so quick. While David and Matt responded to it, within a few minutes, the name was finalized. It's not like a year-long thinking. It's like this event. This was brought to ground in 4 days. TDeFi was brought to ground in 5 days, I guess. And here we are sitting with a good portfolio in the pilot cohort, and the second one seems really, really promising and huge, with more than 60 applications and more coming in as we talk. We received just 2 applications between the last 40 minutes.
That's a good story.
Awesome.
And I think that's a good summary in terms of kind of the backstory. I think for those that aren't aware, there's, I guess, if you look on the website and look at the information that we provide, this is really just a passion play of a number of people within the space who have a personal desire to really build something for the greater good and community. And I think we kind of, we brought to bear a lot of stuff that we've been using individually through technology companies, investment vehicles, be it family offices or funds specific to crypto. All of us have a network as well. And I think ultimately it was a natural kind of progression really to create this kind of ecosystem where, we find like people that really have a passion, a desire to really grow and build something, and then help them in that journey and, be part of that journey. And I think ultimately that's what really drives people. It's great to see people, and I've really enjoyed the discussions today to hear from people that are really trying to drive change, innovation. And, it's great that we can just be part of that journey in any small way to support you in that. And I guess that's the overriding message from all of us here, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I think maybe we'll just give everyone one last chance to sort of maybe provide anyone with some updates, some news, any sort of special announcements for the community. Maybe get them a bit more excited. I'm sure you guys have a few things under your sleeve. Hopefully, you can share that for the guys that are watching, and then we can kind of call this.
Dave, maybe we can begin with something from our side. So guys, those who are there on the video, those who are presenting, everybody who's here on the AMAs, and finally on this panel, these video would be hyper marketed. These questions would be hyper marketed at our own cost, in our own network. Not to mention our event partner Agora is pushing all of this content to an extensive network of 260 family offices and more than 2,000 HNIs. So I'm sure these questions would lead a long way, not just limited to this live session, but the precise question and precise pitches will be doing circles in the investor rounds, investor circles, and way beyond that in the trade dog ecosystem that has more than 1 million traders altogether. So that's from our side. Leaving it all to you guys.
Thanks. That's awesome. Actually, like in the next 2 weeks, just we will plan something big. So I think and people know that we are also like getting closer to TG. So there will be some exciting news coming soon.
Watch this space, Reef followers, guys. As you've heard it here live.
2 weeks time, full dev.
Love it. How about you guys, Antonio? Have you got anything under your sleeves right now that you can sort of like let us know about?
Yeah, we have still some things to come up, and I think December will be a good month for us overall, and our product portfolio will be growing, will be improved more and more steadily, And yeah, we started a campaign today that you can start DAO until the 31st of December and get eligible for the whole 2020 rewards. So yeah, that's
Nice.
the things we have at the moment.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And I guess that leaves the last and the most glamorous on the panel today. There we go, Anshel. Not difficult, I know, but nonetheless, you beat us by a mile. So over to you. Anything you can share with us today?
Yes, for Sperium, we are going to launch a new website with more details. I think in the next 1 week, in 2 weeks, we'll be updating our white paper and tokenomics, which will be finalized. I guess in the next 4 weeks, our app will be available for the mockups will be available for everyone in our community. So the whole December has a lot of things coming up. This is the first panel where we have presented our project actually. So this is the first investment. In fact, I messaged Gaurav whether we should bring the project because we are at a very early stage, and he said just send the pitch deck. So so we are trying to bring in as many things as possible in 2020 and 2021. Indeed, we'll see our app and our desktop application in January and February, early February. We should be able to bring it for the community to test.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Well,
awesome.
that's I think that's a great wrap. Maybe just to finish, are we able to play that video, guys, now in terms of showing kind of some of the incubated projects right now and the focus for people in the break, or where are we at with that?
Or maybe let's allow the team back there to have a break because they got to.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been a good session for them. They'll break for snacks.
All right.
For all those who are not aware, there's a team of 18 working from the office for the overnight shift in India, and then there are like good 10 people working from their home. So they need the break. We're all entrepreneurs. They're not. They need that break.
There you go. See, it
awesome.
doesn't all get done on its own.
Well, thank you for thank you everyone for coming out today. We'll be back at 1:30 on both the Trade Dog channel and the Restream channel, where we'll be joined by some more exciting projects. We'll be starting off with Simone Martin, who's a mentor for BVI, 20 years of financial regulatory experience, and we'll have CyberFi, Manifold, and Bahadler. Until then, we'll see you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.